Chapter 9 of Andiron Tales by John Bangs. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. On the Oscycle, a narrow escape. "Well," said the polar bear, as the Oscycle started on its downward course, "I'm mighty glad we're off, and away from those other creatures on that trolley. They were a dishonest lot." "So am I," came a voice from behind him that made the bear jump nervously, for it was none other than the flamingo. "So are the rest of us," added a lot of voices in chorus, and Tom, turning to see who beside himself and his companions had got aboard, was hugely amused to see the kangaroo, the monkey, the hippopotamus, and all the other creatures from the trolley, save only the conductor and motorman, seated there behind, as happy as you please. "It doesn't pay to associate with conductors," said the flamingo. "They don't think of anything but money all the time, and they're awfully rude about it sometimes. Why, I knew a conductor once who refused to change a $100 bill for me." "I don't believe you ever had a $100 bill," growled the hippopotamus. "I've got one I wouldn't sell for $1,000, said the flamingo. "It's the one I eat with," he added. "That's not legal tender," said the polar bear. "You couldn't change it if it was," sneered the flamingo. "I could change it in a minute if I wanted to," said the polar bear with a chuckle. "What with, cash?" demanded the flamingo scornfully. "No, with one whack of my paw," said the bear, shaking his fist menacingly at the flamingo. "I could change your whole face for that matter," he added with a frown. "I was only fooling, Polly, old man," said the flamingo, a trifle worried. "Of course you could, but you wouldn't, would you?" "Not unless I had to," replied the bear. "But gee, aren't we just whizzing along? Are you cold, Tom?" "Yes," said Tom with a shiver, "just a little." "Well, come sit next to me, and I'll let you use my furs. I don't need 'em myself. I'm a pretty warm bear, considering where I come from." "Sit close, gentlemen," cried the man in charge of the Oscycle. "We're coming to a thank you, marm. Look out! Look out! Hang together! By Jove, there goes the monkey!" And sure enough, off the monkey flew, as the Oscycle crossed the hump in enormous rate of speed. "Hi there, you fellows!" the monkey shrieked as he landed in the soft snow. "Wait a minute! Hi, you! Stop! Wait for me!" "Can't do it!" roared the man in charge. "Can't stop! Going too fast!" "But what am I going to do?" shrieked the monkey excitedly. "Get inside of a snowball and roll down. We'll catch you on the way back," the kangaroo yelled. And as they passed out of hearing of the monkey's voice, no one knew how the little creature took the suggestion. "I'm glad he's gone," said the hippopotamus. "He was a nuisance, and I tell you I had a narrow escape. He had his tail wound around my neck a minute before. He might have yanked me off with him." "Yanked you?" said the old gentleman from Saturn, gazing contemptuously at the hippopotamus. "Bosh! The idea of a 7-pound monkey yanking a 3-ton hippopotamus!" "What?" roared the man in charge. "A what? How much which?" 3 ton, said the old gentleman from Saturn. "That's what he weighs. I know because he stepped on my toe getting off the trolley." "But it's against the law," cried the man in charge. "We're not allowed to carry more than 1,000 pounds on these machines." "Hump!" laughed the kangaroo. "It's very evident, Hippy, that you'll have to go way back and lose some weight." "I can't help weighing 3 tons," said the hippopotamus. "I'm built that way." "That's all right," said the man in charge, wringing his hands in despair. "But you'll have to get off. If you don't, we'll go over the edge." His voice rose to a shriek. Tom's heart sank and he half rose up. "Sit still," said the 2 Andirons, grabbing him by the arms. "We're in for it. We've got to take what comes." "Right you are," said the bellows. "Don't you bother, Tom. We'll come out all right in the end." "But what's the trouble, Mr. Man?" asked the poker. "What's the hippo's weight got to do with our going over the edge?" "Why, can't you see?" explained the man in charge. "His 6,000 pounds pushing the machine along from behind there gives us just so much extra speed, and all the brakes in the world won't stop us now we've got going unless he gets off." The announcement made an immediate panic, and the polar bear began to cry like a baby. "Oh, why did I ever come?" he moaned, as the tears trickled down his nose and froze into a great icicle at the end of it, "when I might have stayed home, riding around on my own private iceberg." "Stop your whimpering," said the kangaroo, Brace up and be a man." "I don't want to be a man," blubbered the bear. "I'm satisfied to be a poor, miserable little polar bear." "You've got to jump, Hippy," said the flamingo. "That's all there is about it." "Sir," replied the hippopotamus solemnly, "I shall not jump. It would ill comport with my dignity for me to try to jump as if I were merely a kangaroo. No, sir. Here I sit, firm as a rock. You might as well ask an elephant to dance a jig." "We'll put you off if you don't get off of your own accord," roared the polar bear. Bracing up and removing the icicle from his nose, he shook it angrily at the hippopotamus. "All right," said the hippopotamus with a pleasant smile. "All right. Has any gentleman brought a derrick along with him to assist in the operation? You don't happen to have a freight elevator in your pocket, do you, Mr. Kangaroo?" "Pry him off, Poker!" cried the kangaroo. "I would if I could," answered the poker mournfully, "but I'm not a crowbar." "Well then, all together here," shouted the man from Saturn. "Line up and we'll shove him off." There was a frantic rush at the stolid hippopotamus in response to this suggestion. But they might as well have tried to batter down the Rock of Gibraltar by hurling feathers against it, so firmly fixed in his seat was this passenger of outrageous weight. "Come again, gentlemen," said the hippopotamus, suavely. "There's nothing better for the complexion than a good rub, and I assure you, you have placed me under an obligation to you." "Prod him with the icicle," said the kangaroo to the polar bear. "I'm not moved by tears, even if they are frozen and sharpened to a point," laughed the hippopotamus, as the polar bear did as he was told, smashing the icicle without so much as denting the hippo's flesh. "Well, if you won't jump, I will," said the man from Saturn angrily. "If I'm hurt, I take it out of your hide when we meet again." "All right," retorted the hippopotamus. "You'll have to get a steam drill and blast it out. Bye-bye." The man from Saturn jumped and landed head first in the snow, but whether he was hurt or not, the party never knew, for their speed was now so terrific that he had barely landed before they whizzed past the bottom of the hill and up the other incline. It became clear, too, as they sped on, that at such a fearful rate of progress, nothing could now keep the Oscycle from going over the edge, and the others began to lay plans for safety. "I'm going to jump for a passing trolley cloud the minute we get to the edge," said the kangaroo. "I don't know what I shall do," sobbed the polar bear. "If I land on my feet, I'll be all right, for they're big and soft, like sofa cushions. But if I land on my head—" "That's softer yet, Polly," laughed the flamingo, who appeared to be less concerned than anybody. "If you land on your head, it will be just as if you fell into a great bowl of oatmeal, so you're all right." "I'm not afraid for myself," said the poker. "I can drop any distance without serious injury, being made of iron, and my friends, the Andirons, are equally fortunate. The bellows, too, is comparatively safe. The worst that can happen to him is to have the wind knocked out of him, but—" "It's Tom we're bothered about," said the right-hand iron, with an anxious glance at Lefty. "You see, we invited him to come off here with us, and—" "Who is he, anyhow?" demanded the flamingo, glancing at Tom in such a way that the youngster began to feel very uncomfortable. "I'm a dormouse," said Tom, remembering the agreement. "Not for this occasion," put in the poker. "This time you're a boy, and we've got to save you somehow or other, and we'll do it, Tom, so don't be afraid." "What kind of boy is he?" demanded the flamingo. "One of these bean-snapping boys that go around shooting robins and hooking birds' eggs when they haven't anything else to do?" "Not a bit of it," said Righty. "He never snapped a bean at a bird in all his life." "Humph!" said the flamingo. "I suppose he's been too busy pulling feathers out of peacocks' tails to decorate his room with, to be bothering with robins and eggs." "Never did such a thing in all my born days," retorted Tom indignantly. "Probably not," sneered the flamingo. "And why? Because you were so well satisfied keeping a canary locked up in a cage for your own pleasure that you hadn't any time to chase peacocks." "I've lived in the family 40 years," said the right-hand iron, "and to my knowledge there was never a caged bird in the house." "Really?" said the flamingo, looking at Tom with interest. "Rather a new kind of boy, this. Very few boys have a good record where birds are concerned." "Tom's no enemy to birds," observed the bellows. "I know that, because I've been in his family longer than he has, and I've watched him." "Well," said the flamingo, "if that's the case, maybe I can help him. One good turn deserves another. If he is good to birds, I may be able at this time to do good to him. This trouble ahead of us doesn't bother me, because I have wings and can fly." Here the flamingo flapped his wings proudly. "And I could take Tom on my back and fly anywhere with him, for I am an extremely powerful bird. But I want to know one more thing about him before I undertake to save him. We birds must stand together, you know, and I'm not going to befriend a foe to my kind under any circumstances, Thomas." "Yes, sir," replied Tom, all of a tremble, for he hadn't the slightest idea what was coming. And as a truthful boy, he knew that whatever the consequences to himself might be, he must give the correct answer. "Do you have Sunday breakfast at home?" asked the flamingo. "Yes, sir," Tom replied respectfully. "You have coffee and hominy and toast and fried potatoes and all that?" queried the bird. "Yes, sir," Tom answered, turning very pale, however, for he was in great dread of what he now saw was likely to come next. "And, fruit?" said the flamingo. "Oh, yes, plenty of fruit," replied Tom very nervously. "And now, sir," said the flamingo severely, and ruffling his feathers like an angry turkey. "Now for the main point, Thomas, and mind you, I want a truthful answer. Did you ever eat a broiled flamingo for your Sunday morning breakfast?" Tom breathed a sigh of relief as the flamingo blurted out the last part of the question. "No, sir, never," he replied. "Then hurry and climb up on my shoulders here," the flamingo cried. "You're a boy after my own heart. I believe you'd be kind to a stuffed parrot. But hurry, there's the edge right ahead of us. Jump!" Tom jumped and in a moment was sitting astride of the great bird's neck. In his right hand he grasped the claw of Righty, in his left that of Lefty, while these two clutched tightly hold of Bellows and the poker respectively. A moment later the Oscycle reached the edge and dashed wildly over it, the kangaroo following out his plan of jumping higher still, and fortunately for himself catching a passing trolley cloud by which he was borne back to the starting point again. As for the polar bear and the hippopotamus, they plunged out into space, while the group comprising our little party from home and the flamingo soared gracefully back to earth again, where the generous-hearted bird deposited them safely on top of the most convenient alp. "Thanks very much," said Tom, as he clambered down from the bird's neck and stood upon solid ground again. "Don't mention it," said the flamingo. "It is a pleasure to serve a bird defender and his friends." And with this he soared away. "I'm glad he didn't ask me if I ever ate broiled chicken for Sunday breakfast," said Tom. "Why?" asked the poker. "Do you?" "Do I?" cried Tom. "Well, I guess I don't do anything else." End of chapter 9.